Hey there, I'm Yvette. I'm the CTO of Meetup. And before I get into talking about shipping apps at scale, let's ask a question. Why? I've listened to a lot of entrepreneurs and founders, like my own CEO, Scott, the founder and CEO of Meetup. And something that I've always heard, they keep asking why. They keep trying to pull apart each layer, right? Until they've asked and answered the most fundamental question that they can. So before I talk about how to ship apps that matter, first question I have to ask, why is an app important to Meetup to begin with? But there's another question I have to ask after that. Why is it important that Meetup even exists? What's the fundamental reason that Meetup exists? So let's look at that quickly. Has anyone here ever been to a Meetup? Raise your hand. All right, cool, that's a lot of people. So if you've gone to a Meetup, fundamentally, you've met in person, you've gotten together, and you've talked with people about doing things that really matter to you. But that's when the magic happens, right? You meet new people. You start to form relationships. You hack together. You might start companies together. You do things together that you could never do on your own. So why is that important? Why does that even matter? Well, Steve Wozniak in 1975 was part of the Homebrew Computer Club in Menlo Park, California. When he was part of that club, their mission was to meet up regularly in person and work together to try to make the computer more accessible to the public. Worked out pretty well for them. But he's quoted as saying in InfoWeek in 1985, without computer clubs, there would probably be no Apple computers, right? So without that regular meeting and getting together with one another. So that's what happens. That's why it's important to get together and meet up. So that made us think, how can we as Meetup empower our members to meet up more often? How can we do that for them in 2016 and beyond for the next decade? And we thought, well, what if we just used our phones to get off our phones? So we started a big design project, right? We started really digging into things. We did user interviews. We aligned with stakeholders. We sent out a company survey where we literally had pages and pages of ideas written down by each person at our company. We did an offsite where we brought 50 cross-functional folks to a brainstorm. It was awesome. We generated over 10,000 ideas for what our app could be. We then collected all of those ideas into user journeys. We have members and organizers at Meetup. So we put them all together. And then we started picking out the themes in those journeys and categorizing them into bigger themes. And then debating and deciding a lot over what were the most important themes to us until we got to a single vision for our redesign. That vision grounded us in making decisions. That vision grounded us in making product decisions. And these are some of the things that we learned. The first was we really need to empower our members to find things that they love to do, right? We really need to make that find, browse, that search experience a lot easier, a lot richer, a lot deeper. That was one core tenet for us. The great thing about mobile devices is that once we did that in our app, people could take the Meetup community anywhere, right? So we were pretty psyched about that. The next thing we learned, we needed to help people be more spontaneous. Meetup works really well now for people who are Uber planners, right? And you plan out your schedule, you plan out your week. But it doesn't work great yet for people who want to find that thing they love to do that afternoon they want to do it, that's nearest them, right? So we wanted to try to find ways to make spontaneity a bigger part of what you could do with our community. Again, the great thing about mobile devices is with geolocation and always-on features, it really helped us achieve that vision. And the last thing, we needed to design for moments. That moment when you leave your house, you get ready to go meet a bunch of people, many of whom you've never met before, that's actually really hard, you know? It was probably hard for a lot of you to come here today and start talking to complete strangers. That's not easy. And we view our job to coach you through that experience, right? The great thing about mobile devices is we could really use notifications, you know, that buzz in the pocket to remind you, you look great today, as Leanne always does. Or you know, you can do it. You know, you love playing the violin, go out there and do it. So designing for moments, and getting back to this question, why? Did we feel like mobile apps was right for us? Well, heck yeah. And we were really excited to put a lot of our company behind redesigning and rebuilding our mobile apps. So one of the first decisions we had to make was our iOS app, which had been built 6 years ago. It had been iterated on. It was never rebuilt. The quality wasn't great. And it was a big decision we made, but we decided to rebuild the app from scratch, throw it all away and build a new foundation, which was actually quite exciting for our engineers. The next decision we made, at that time in 2015, it was clear we should rebuild it in Swift, but Swift 2 was still in beta. What should we do? We decided to go with Swift 2 because it would compile and run a lot faster for our end users and our engineers. We were just really excited about giving our engineers the opportunity to work on the latest great open source framework. It also allowed us to attract great talent who, frankly, wanted to be part of that open source future with us. The other big decision we had to make was, well, what operating systems do we support? We looked at our data in that case, and we saw that there would be very few people still left on iOS 8 after a certain period of time. And if we went iOS 9 and above, the amount of time that we'd save coding for previous versions, we could pour all of that into shipping features faster. So we felt really good about that decision too. Our Android app, on the other hand, was in much better shape. The foundation was stronger, the quality was better, but there were key areas that we knew that we had to address after doing an assessment there. The first one was we're loading so much data into the screens in our app. We're making multiple API calls. Being able to use reactive programming and to combine all of those API calls in an easy way with a few lines of codes and composite those calls into one. Our engineers didn't have to worry about edge cases, about someone tapping away from the screen quickly. It really, really helped streamline our app and reduce the amount of code and edge cases our engineers had to design for. The other thing that we did is we looked at some great open source frameworks out there from folks like Square and Google, and we employed them where necessary in certain areas to make our app more responsive and just feel lightning fast, to reduce the bandwidth that our app would take. And it also reduced the boilerplate code that we'd have to write, and again, allowing us to really focus on features and shipping faster. So when we got into it, we did a couple of other things. Number one, we realized we really need to reorganize our team. Our engineers have been spread out across all of our product teams, but we actually decided to create one central apps team that was cross-functional because we were really making some fundamental product and engineering decisions, and having the team work together was really key. The other thing that we did is that even from the design phase, we shipped, using Hockey, we shipped a weekly prototype of the new designed app to all of our employees. So every week, you could see the evolution of the app in your hands and provide the team feedback. When we started building the production app, we did the same thing until our more formal internal alpha. And then we did the same thing using Google and Apple's public beta programs, which worked out great for us. So we're launching next week. We're launching our new apps next week. Thanks. You guys want to see a preview? I can't show video, but I'll show some screens, and we'll talk about some of these design things. So right here, this is our app home. Right at the top, these are all the meetups that you've belonged to. We're getting them front and center to you. They're horizontally scrollable, so you can really scroll the depth of categories that you've already said, I am interested in this stuff. I love doing this stuff. We're trying to bring that front and center so that you go. You see lower on the bottom, we've really cleaned up our nav. We put notifications front and center right in the middle so that we can coach you, we can communicate with you, we can tell you, hey, your meetup's coming up. Don't miss it. Get out there. Get on the subway and go, right? If you look down at the second row, we've also put a category there. Our recommendations engine knows what kind of meetups you'd be most interested in going to that you haven't joined yet, and which ones are happening soon near you, right? So front and center. And as you scroll down, there's other categories, again, recommendations engine driven, trying to give you a really breadth and depth of what you can find at Meetup. And then if you scroll down, there's categories that we've never done before in this way. So you can really browse deep into categories. We have an LGBTQ category, front and center too. That picture's changed, and I think you guys will love it. But thanks so much. One thing I have to say, before you leave, look to your left, look to your right. Before you leave this conference, make sure you've connected with someone. We can all do things better together than we can alone. So connect with people before you leave. Thanks.